we're going to talk about how contractors can use LinkedIn better to grow their business. And a lot of the things I have are somewhat conventional, and then there's some unconventional ways that I approach LinkedIn. What makes me credible to talk about this topic? I've got about 20,000 people following me today, so I think that's kind of credible. I could have more, but I've got about 20,000 people following me on LinkedIn. That's after taking almost a year and a half off. Like I've taken almost a year and a half off, and it's still growing because of the content we put out. And as we ramp up content, it just keeps growing again. So I think that's probably all you need to say about that. One of the reasons that I feel like LinkedIn is so good is because there's just so many businesses on it. There's so many federal people on it, contractors, contracting officers. So you've got teaming partners, you've got potential clients, you've got agencies using the platform. It's really their go-to platform for the most part for a lot of communication that happens in the market. Not every agency, but a lot of them. And so I think that's one of the biggest reasons. I think Mark Hamtower has a study he does, and they add millions of new GovCons to it every single year. It's wild how fast it's growing and the percentage of GovCon people that are on it. So it's very much worth your time to get in there. So I'm going to talk about a handful of areas. The first one here is optimizing your profile. You do need a professional headline and summary. And I'm going to say this before I get into the headline and summary. If there's a section inside your LinkedIn profile, it's there for a reason. LinkedIn optimizes their algorithm around the completeness of your profile and the things you put in it. So if there's a section, use it. We're going to talk first about profile and the headline and summary. So there's a lot of headlines that are more worthy of being on Facebook than they are on LinkedIn. And look, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a girl dad, I'm a Christian, I'm all these things. That is not the place to put that. It's not in your headline. Go put that on Facebook or somewhere. You need to put something in your headline as if it was a marketing piece. Like you can be all those things, and those things are great. I love when people brag about themselves like that. It's great, but not there. In the headline, when somebody hovers over that, it's like you just did that little elevator bump in thing, and you've got a few seconds. And if they're reading that and then they've got to click, most people are lazy enough, they're not going to click. So they need to see it and say, this person's in GovCon or whatever. And it needs to draw some interest. So like helping federal agencies achieve X outcome or whatever it is, GovCon specialist or whatever it is, cybersecurity expert or whatever it is. Mine says something along the lines of, if you want to win more government contracts, connect with me, right? So it's speaking to my audience. And that's what you need to do in there. Again, not brag about all those things. Those things are great, but they're not going to help you get clicks and get connections. They're just not. And so again, I want to be really blunt about that because I think some people are super proud of it and they do that. And it's like, it's not helping you. It may not be hurting you, but definitely not helping you. But use some clear keyword rich headline stuff. Like I just said, helping federal agencies, this, that, and the other. Don't put all your certifications in there. I don't want to see your name and then 9 certifications that you have. That doesn't tell me what you do. We are very big proponents of not leading with your certification ever for any reason. Can that be in your profile? Absolutely. But if I look at your name and then below it, there's 19 certifications, I don't know what you do. I need to know what you do. It needs to be keyword rich. And then your summary needs to very clearly define your niche experience and your value prop, all those kind of things. Like it needs to be very clear. And you can have AI go in and spice these things up. You don't have to be super creative all on your own. You can do this with AI a lot. The next one is your profile and banner image. I'm mostly speaking to the guys when I say this, and ladies will probably laugh as well. We don't need the topless beach photo in your profile photo. I see that a lot from folks that there's, shirt off on the boat. I get it. You're proud of it. Put it in somewhere, but not as your main profile photo, men or women. It doesn't need to go in there. Unless you sell bathing suits, then that's perfectly okay. Which I have someone on LinkedIn that I was connected to who she's got hundreds of thousands of followers. She sells swimsuits, and people are like, why are you always in a swimsuit on your profile? It's so, it's just unprofessional. I'm like, she sells swimsuits. That's why she's in a swimsuit. So this is the rare occasion where that works. But just a nice profile image. You don't have to necessarily go down to a photographer and get something done. iPhones do a really, really good job these days. But I do see a lot of photos where people have taken them like in the bathroom. And so you see the shower in the back or whatever. Like we don't want that. We don't want like low light photos where it's all a little bit blurry. Like you need something kind of high res that looks good. This is one of the first places people are going to see you. It needs to look good. So don't be one of those people. And then the banner image as well, where you've got a banner image where you can put all kind of text and stuff in. And maybe I should show you what I have in mind right now. I do have a casual photo in mind at the moment because I'm kind of a casual guy for the most part. It is on the beach, but I have a shirt on. So anyway, so nobody come after me for that. So I'll just show you for those that don't know what mine looks like right now. It's very simple, but in the banner image, you see that I've got all this room. So our logo's in here, and this is not the end all be all banner image. Don't think of it that way. But I've got some stuff that we've done, some metrics in there. We've got our Amazon bestsellers. I've got the URLs that are clickable, my email address. All that stuff is in there. I've also got a link where they can click and book a call with me. And so that's all above the fold, as we say in marketing. And there's just a really simple headline in there. It tells you a little bit more about who I am and what I do. So it's really, really simple in how that looks. And so I highly recommend a very simple profile overall. So just a couple of tips on that, on the banner image and all that. Again, you might love the mountains, you might love the lake, but a photo of just the lake when you sell cybersecurity, not helping you. So put something that's a little more relevant to your topic in there. And that's just one more place, one more trigger spot where somebody's going to see what you do and how you're communicating. And it's going to stand out in a sea, no pun intended, of people that just have beach photos behind them. So it'll be helpful for you. Then there's your experience and about section. Keep them fairly brief, but definitely highlight your government experience, your NAICS codes. You can drop your capability statement in those areas, things like that. Those are all great things to put in there in that. Then you get into the skills and recommendations. There's an area where you can add skills. When it gets to the recommendation side, I highly recommend giving recommendations all the time. I actually have on my calendar at least once a week, sometimes, depending on what's going on, it may be twice a week, to go in and try to give at least one person a recommendation. Maybe I'll give 2 or 3 people recommendations. And it's people I know and I've worked with, in some capacity. And I will make this commitment to everyone on here. If you go on LinkedIn and give me a recommendation, I will 100% give you one back. So if you want to go on there, if you don't have recommendations and you want one, go give me one. It'd be great if some of you that know each other even have a call with somebody and then give them a recommendation. But after that, those recommendations are really, really helpful. I've got, 30 or 40 of them in there now. I'd love to have hundreds, but I've been a little slow at requesting that from people. So I'm out there saying, hey, I'd love to have recommendations in there, and I'll reciprocate that. Those are really good for your profile, because I can't tell you how many times I've been on the phone with somebody and they said, I was looking at your LinkedIn profile and there's people say all these good things about you. And that's why I knew I had to call you. So people do read that stuff. So the next section I'm going to talk about is building, engaging your GovCon network. I highly recommend you look at key decision makers, contracting officers, all those people, and you reach out. And don't put a note in it unless it's extremely specific. So if I'm reaching out to people, I just hit connect and send. I don't put a note. The acceptance rate of not putting a note, for me at least, has been at least 300-400% higher than when I put a note, especially like the generic note, hey, Rich, I saw that we have a lot of things in common and similar connections and blah, 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 this other garbage. I'd love to connect. That's going to get rejected a lot. But not putting something in there usually gets accepted. And if you have met, like, let's say we met at a conference or we were on a call like this, like I said earlier, if you're on a call like this, not everybody may know somebody that this is their first or second time here. And so they may not recognize Chris's name, which, what a shame. Chris has been here all the time, right? Um, but they may not recognize her name because this is the first or second time they've been here. So you could say, hey, just reaching out like Mike told us to in Inner Circle today, love to connect with you. That's a very specific reason to put a note in there to make somebody go, oh yeah, I met you today on that. Or, hey, we were at the Hub Zone conference and, we met, at your booth or whatever. And that's what I'm sending. Those are reasons to put a note. Otherwise, don't put a note. You don't need to do it. You can search super easy on the platform, whether you're doing it by just the word contracting officer and then using the advanced filters. There's so many ways to search. You can do it by organization. You can do it by city. So if you're trying to connect with a contracting officer or a teaming partner and you need to drill down into a city because you know they work at this Air Force base or this Army base or whatever it is, those are great ways to search and find those people to connect with. But having something on your calendar regularly where you're proactively reaching out with a search or a couple of searches is a really great way to do it. For a while, when my daughter was in high school, I actually used to pay her to do this for me every day. And I'd ask her to just spend an hour. I'd give her certain keywords. I would give her SDVUSB, 8A, because I know people are putting that in their profile, even though they shouldn't. CEO, and other different president, owner, GovCon. There was a handful of keywords that I had her search every day. And she would go through and just hit connect, 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 connect. And then after she connected, we did have a little short message that we would send that just said, hey, I really appreciate you for connecting. I really value my network. If there's anything I can do for you ever, please just reach out to me. And that was the whole message. It wasn't pushy or anything like that. And I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a little bit. But reaching out and connecting, saying something when they connect with you, it's a really good practice to have on a daily basis. Spend 30 minutes a day doing it. Or spend 2 hours on the weekend while you're watching the new episode of Outlander or whatever it is you watch. Just spend a little bit of time doing that. And then the next thing I recommend when you're trying to engage is engage with their content, commenting on their content, and not just, this is great. Like, write a sentence to them, share it with your network, and those kind of things build relationships. I built a relationship with Anna Ehrman. A lot of people know Anna from State Department. I built a relationship with Anna doing just that. And about the third month, for those that don't know Anna, she's a contracting officer over at State when I met her. And about the third month of me sharing her content and going back and forth, she was like, can we hop on the phone? I'd love to chat with you. And she chatted with me. And somewhere in the fourth or fifth month, she started sending me solicitations. It's like, hey, are you aware of this? Did you know this? Well, I was thinking maybe you should bid on this. It just came out today. And that's just for me building a relationship with her on LinkedIn. That's all I did. Because I was, she does get quite a few shares on her content, but I was like sharing everything and whatever. I was like, oh, this is really good. And I was really talking it up and like, she's awesome. I just had a phone call with her. Well, and so we built a really good friendship on LinkedIn to the point where she's sending me notices. I'm like, I appreciate it. I'm not interested in bidding on this stuff. I really appreciate it. I don't want to run the podcast for State Department. I don't want to set up the studio for State Department to run their podcast. I get you think I can, but I don't have any interest in that. But anyway, it was just nice to have. And then there are specific groups that you can get involved in. You can go crazy down a rabbit hole of these groups. You don't need to do that. You can target a handful and join the different groups and then engage in the discussions, ask questions in those groups. Those are all ways that you can engage your customer base. You connect with key decision makers. And again, not just contracting officers and, influencers and stuff like program managers, but teaming partners. Those teaming partners are really good. And then you engage their content and then you join groups. Those are really good ways. The next thing here, and this may feel like it's a little bit reverse from what I'm going to talk about, because I am going to talk about outreach and business development strategy. But before I talk about that, I want to talk about LinkedIn visibility. And to get visibility in LinkedIn, you really got to think a little bit more like, I hate to use the word thought leader. It's really more like an influencer is how you have to think. It's kind of like a hybrid between a thought leader and an influencer. And you have to think that way about the content that you're putting out. And so that is one of the ways to increase visibility so that when you are doing your outbound BD work, when you are reaching out to people, they can actually see that you're doing stuff and active, because there's nothing worse for a lot of people than interacting with a dead account. And a dead account to me is you joined in 2005 and then your last post was 2008-ish. That's kind of a dead account. So we want to show people we're actively using the platform and putting out good content. Even if a lot of what you put out is reposting other people's stuff, that's still, you're creating visibility on it if you just share it and put your spin on it. So any of you can do that with my stuff. You can share it and then just put a paragraph of your spin on it. Helps me, it helps you. It increases your visibility because they're like, hey, Mike is totally off base on this, blah, 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 whatever. And of course I'll comment back on you. We'll go at it, but it'll be fun. But those kind of things are helpful for people, whether it's you disagree, whether you agree, however it is, just sharing the content is often really, really helpful. So posting valuable content is great. And I say the word regularly. So what does regular mean to me? Probably something different than what it might mean to you. Posting once a week is not regular. That's just above a dead account. You need to be thinking about daily interaction with this platform. And I know the first thing some of you are thinking is, well, you just gave me a lot of anxiety because that's a lot to think about. It's not. Don't think about it that hard. Like, you all have thoughts about what's going on in the market, what's going on in business. You have a little something that you have a challenge with. You saw a funny little business meme. There's something simple you can drop in the platform every day with almost zero thought. You don't even have to go sit down in AI and say, I'd like a 30-day LinkedIn strategy about this, and this. You don't even have to do that. You can start slow and just start posting things that are top of mind for you. That's a really easy way to ease yourself into the platform. And like, hey, I had a great call with it on Inner Circle today, learned about using LinkedIn as a better platform. So now I'm going to give it my go, even though I have a ton of anxiety about doing this. Boom. That's 2 sentences. And now you've shared something with your network. You're like, oh, that's, good for you, taking the initiative on LinkedIn. What's Inner Circle? See, it all helps me too. So anyway, so posting regularly is really, really important. One of the things that you can do if you are more like me, and well, I'd say me, I don't want to say Josh, is you could write more. And so if you like writing, you can write articles. I recommend turning articles into newsletters because LinkedIn is really hot right now on their newsletter feature. So that used to be just an article that was standalone, but now you can actually convert it to a newsletter. And when you convert it to a newsletter, people can subscribe to it and then they'll get it in their inbox and it'll show up on LinkedIn. And so that's a really great way to do it, is to use the newsletter feature in there. And you can write about anything, how-to guides. You can write about kind of your thoughts on GovCon, not politics. I'm going to talk about that last today. We're not going to talk politics, and I'll tell you why in a bit. But you can write about all kinds of different things, and you don't have to look at it as, well, I've got to write 750 to 1,000 words. You can write 100 words. You can do that. I have a Canva account. I don't know who here has a Canva account. You can create a graphic in Canva in less than 5 minutes for the most part, and pop your graphic in. Now you've got your graphic in there. You've got your 100-word, 1,000-word, whatever article. Drop that in. If you did an interview with somebody, you can drop the transcript in there. That's one of the things we do every Wednesday, is we drop a transcript of the podcast every single Wednesday through an article. And now I'm doing a new one every Sunday of topics like this. So I'm doing it with you guys first. So I'll do the topic here, and then I'll record a video, and then I'll take the transcript and edit it down, kind of my notes, and then that'll go out as an article on Sunday mornings. And so if you notice, I'm reusing content for a lot of different things in different ways because people consume it in a lot of different ways. I think I was telling somebody this week, I was looking at my podcast growth, and for the first time in 9 years, our podcast growth dropped like more than 50% on our podcasting platform. And I was like, what's going on? And what I found out was how much it was being consumed in the transcript and being consumed in video. And we were actually more than double what we had been. People just chose to consume it in different areas. And it was an eye opener for me because I thought people just wanted to consume audio, and that wasn't the case. Some wanted to consume video, some wanted to read the transcript. And I was missing that segment of the market by not putting it out that way. Now that I am, there's been massive growth to our message. So anyway, just a couple things there. I also recommend for folks, I'm going to start doing this in the very near future. If you're really trying to amp up the thought leadership, I do recommend using video and LinkedIn Live. So you can record videos, which you already see me doing a lot of that. I'm not quite back up to a video a day. At one point, I was doing 1 or 2 videos a day. It kind of exhausted me. And now I'm kind of getting back in the groove of doing a video a day. But you can do a video like that, or you can use the LinkedIn Live feature. LinkedIn Live is probably the most clunky live platform I've ever seen in my life. It's actually kind of ridiculous. Like, you can't do it natively in the app. You've got to set up an event and then use Zoom or a third party to make it work. Every time you got to go in and get a link. So it's kind of a pain in the butt to use LinkedIn Live, but lives are viewed very heavily. I prefer like going live through, we use Riverside FM, and I can put in all my social media, hit go live, and it broadcasts all of them at once. But there's still a little trick to getting the LinkedIn one. But if the live thing is too intimidating for you, or you don't want to do that, just shoot videos here and there. And again, start somewhere. You don't have to start with a video a day. Start with a video a week, along with the other content you're doing, and then, slowly work your way up. Rich is doing a great job of doing videos every single day at this point. And so he's definitely somebody to watch. He's doing what I used to do. And I'm really proud of all the stuff he puts out. He puts out really great content. The next one on here is, we're going to talk about the outreach for BD stuff. So when you're using LinkedIn messaging the right way, people will connect with you. So you need to avoid all the spammy sales pitches. There's nothing that will get you blocked faster in my inbox or anybody else's than just a big old message when we first connect, or a giant message trying to connect with me. But it's like when you first connect and it automatically sends this giant text with 14 different links about all your stuff that I need to sign up for. Like, you're done. You're just done. I don't care what it is. Like, I just don't need that in my life. I just don't. And nobody else does. So if you're doing that same spammy sales stuff, it is a numbers game. I'll give those people that. It's a numbers game, but you're turning off more people than you're turning on. One of the reasons for that is people understand marketing more now than they ever have. So your buyers, for the most part, are more sophisticated than they ever have been in the history of doing marketing. They see it coming from a mile away. I'll give you a good one. I walked into the UPS store the other day to return something to Amazon. And as I was walking in, there was a guy that had a table set up. He said, "Man, I love your beard." And I was like, "Oh God, this guy's trying to sell me something." And he's like, "Man, you got to teach me how you do that." And I'm like, "No, I don't. It's not that good. What's your problem?" And so I walked in, did my thing. And sure enough, I was coming out. He's like, "Hey man, can I talk to you?" I said, "No, I'm good." And he's like, "Just a minute, it's for this charity." I was like, "I know you're selling something and I don't care." I'm like, "You did that crappy sales tactic of you liking my beard. And I just don't want any part of it." I was helping my daughter buy a car a while back, and I've got these Skechers on that are at least a year old. And the sales guy's like, "Man, I like those shoes." I'm like, "No, you don't. No, you don't. That's complete BS." And like, I'm just that guy to be like, "No, you don't." And I just say it. Like, my daughter's like, "You don't have to say that." I'm like, "Yeah, I do. It's stupid. No one should have taught him to do that." And everybody can smell it when it's happening. So we know those things instinctively as buyers now. I mean, I'm a sales trainer, but as buyers, people know that they can smell it. And when they see that in their inbox, the first thing they think is, number one, this is probably automatic. It's not even you. And number two, it's annoying. So you avoid all that stuff. When you connect, it's simple. So, hey, thank you for connecting. I really appreciate it. And you just leave it and you build a relationship over time with them. And you can go to other conversations. Hey, I'd really love to, connect with you, after a couple of weeks, something like that. But you gotta dial it back a bit, not come off so strong when you're doing that. So LinkedIn messaging works when you're just being very genuine and very simple, and you kind of give them some breadcrumbs up front, and then work your way up into the ask that you have. Um, and again, flattery does get you a lot of places. So being able to tell somebody, hey, I met you at the HubZone conference, had a really great conversation. I really appreciate all the things you had to say about ABC, and then leave it. See if they come back with something, and then engage them again and engage them again. Playing the long game works so well, and most people don't know how to do it. They're like, well, they connected with me, so now I can ask them to marry me or whatever it is, right? They got like go now I can ask them for the contract. Slow it down. Slow it down a little bit, build a relationship. The next thing here is I recommend following up with your warm leads on here. So when you're tracking engagement and connections and you're talking to people, ask them if you can move this to email or the phone. That's one of those things like, hey, we've been talking about this. Hey, can we move this to email or phone? Because I really want to, whatever. And you can get into deeper discussions there. But that's how, like, if you're, again, starting with a little bit of breadcrumbs and kind of building up to a relationship with this person, then you can decide to move it, set up a phone call, something like that, and go a little bit deeper. But that's how you follow up with them is you start small, you build it up, and then you go back to people. Like if you haven't heard from somebody in a while because you sent them a little note, you go back to them. Hey, I just want to reconnect with you. Man, you've been sharing some really great content. I really appreciate that, Tom. It's really good stuff. You made this comment about fill in the blank. And I was curious about your insights on something. Like be curious about them when you're following up with them. That's a really good thing. Now, excuse me, this next topic is one where it's a little controversial for me. Probably not for most of you. It's not controversial. It's probably not the right word. I don't use a paid LinkedIn account. Never have, probably never will. Somebody may be able to twist my arm. I've not used it. I don't use bid matching systems for the most part. I use what's out there. It's probably because I was extremely broke at one period of my life, and I just learned to work the things that were free. That's probably part of it. So part of it's a mindset thing. But I haven't heard enough raves about stuff to make me want to switch to the paid platform. Some people rave about it. It's cool. Might be for you, might not be for you. They offer free trials of Sales Navigator and the LinkedIn, the upper tiers and all that kind of stuff, which I think their tiering is kind of confusing. There's some for HR, there's Sales Navigator. I think there's a third one. I don't know. There's a bunch of different things. It's irrelevant to the conversation. The point is there is a paid version you can check out for free. I recommend if that's something that you want to get into, go check it out, do your due diligence on it. So just do that. And then the last thing I want to talk about, if you've got questions about LinkedIn, like how you use it specifically for your niche or anything like that, we'll get into that here in a second. So be thinking about your questions. You can put your hand up. We'll come off of mute and go on video and talk about this stuff here in just a second. But the last thing I'm going to talk about is politics and how you need to keep them to yourself. You just need to keep them to yourself. This is not the platform to say you love or hate Trump or love or hate Biden or love or hate fill in the blank. This is not the platform for it. It's a complete distraction when people get in there and do it. So I often tell people the reason I don't talk about politics is because I don't talk about politics. Like if I was a pundit from Washington and that was my business, I would be talking about politics all the time, but it's not my business. And frankly, I don't care about a lot of politics stuff because it doesn't affect, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who's in the office. I've still got to grow my business. And you guys have all heard me say that. Doesn't matter who's in office, always got to grow my business. Regardless of who you are, there's a good chance every 4 years, every 8 years, you're not going to like the person in the White House. There's a good chance. It's 50-50. That's going to happen. Doesn't matter. On this platform, you really need to focus on what you do and trying to be positive as much as you possibly can so that you don't get drugged down in those conversations, because people will do their due diligence on you, whether it's a teaming partner or someone else. And when I'm being courted, for lack of a better term, when I'm being courted by companies to partner with them, which happens all the time, I will go on and look at their LinkedIn profile. And I don't care what side of the political fence they're on. If they are raging about something in a lot of their posts, I'm like, I just don't have time for this in my life. This is going to be a giant distraction when I start to promote them. And now 80% of their posts are talking about what they hate. It's just not going to be helpful. So I'm kind of foot stomping this one a bit hard. I don't think most of you do any of that stuff. That's cool, but just keep the politics out of it. Put it on Facebook, put it on another platform. That's cool. And then my last point about this is also don't be the LinkedIn police. Like the LinkedIn police, where you're like, damn it, Rich, this doesn't belong on this platform. You need to put it on Facebook or X. Like, I'm just gonna pick on Rich. Like people do that all the time.
Can I say one thing? I'm sorry. I've just been like chomping at the bit the
You're
whole
chomping at
time.
the bit. Bring it on. I'm
I
done.
won't,
So go ahead.
okay. So here's the deal. When you go on there and you comment and say,
Yeah.
this doesn't belong here,
Yeah.
next thing you know, everybody in your network sees it. So you just said it doesn't belong here, but you've populated it in everybody else's feed. So just
Yeah. Yeah. It's too funny.
unfollow them.
Yeah.
Unfollow.
Unfollow them, hide them, whatever, or just ignore it. There's thought. Just ignore it and move on. And I haven't done a mindset session on here in a little while, but when it comes to your mindset, it's very easy to get sucked into a negative thought pattern and spiral into that stuff. And you don't need that either. Like this is just as much about protecting your mindset and being focused on good things than getting sucked into a spiral. Because I guarantee you, if you get on LinkedIn and you post this doesn't belong here, other people are possibly going to be commenting that. Other comments are going to happen, and you're going to be tempted to read it. And you're going to get sucked back into a post that you didn't believe had a point on the platform, but yet you're consuming time with that post. And so we have to be better stewards of our time and our boundaries, which again might be a really good session, where we don't let ourselves get sucked into that stuff. And now you're drawn into a conversation for an hour a day or whatever. And like, oh, this is still going on because, I haven't unfollowed or deleted my comment. And now you're getting pulled back into it once or twice a day for the next month. So staying positive is extremely important in guarding your mindset. And that's one of the things that I see a lot of it. And I just want to make sure our people, you are avoiding that so you can focus on what's important.